they don't really believe necessarily in a religion, I would always challenge them. Where did you get your ethics from? Where did you get your values from? Where did you get love from? Because most atheists weren't raised atheists. That's a fact. Okay. Most people who are atheists walking around here didn't start off as atheists. They became it and they have a right to be that. So let me get into this quote that my frat brother said, because I think that this quote is the reason. It shows you how people perceive religion and faith. Okay. And the quote is, I think I sent it to you guys. Religion is regarded by the common people as true, by the wise as false, and by rulers as useful. And a philosopher, Seneca, said that religion is regarded by common people as true, by the wise as false, and by rulers as useful. You guys tell me how you take that comment and apply it to why I believe right now that society is in disarray because men don't have the standards of religion and faith anymore. That we're getting further and further away from God in the society we live in and maybe in the lives that we live. And as that happens, you can see the dissolution of a lot of the institutions we have on here, like manhood, like marriage, like mental health, like community. What do y'all think about that? Do y'all need me to read that quote again?
Nope, I got it. I'm looking right at
Okay.
it right now.
Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead. Y'all chop it up about that. I'll share my perspective after I steal all y'all ideas. Go ahead. Y'all chop that up.
Uh, well, again, I'll jump in. I think I'm gonna start on the tail end of that quote where
That's what I'm
rulers,
saying. I was gonna
religion
do
is
the
used
exact same
as
thing.
yeah, like that would hit me from the tail end that rulers find religion as useful, and I take it from a perspective of being able to manipulate a situation or people in a way for purposes of control or to control a certain outcome or to produce a certain outcome. And I think leaders, you can take it from the world of politics to the world of preachers or religious leaders. Throughout history, you can read about various groups of people using religion for their own purpose, leaders using religion as for their own purposes. So I think it's interesting because I think in today's world, a lot of people are being misled by leaders that are proclaiming themselves to be religious leaders. Whether it's they themselves don't follow the doctrine that they're teaching, or if they are misrepresenting the doctrine that they're trying to teach or the religion that they're representing to get a said outcome, whether it's a financial gain, whether it's more popularity or status or fame, whatever the case may be. These are all things that human beings we struggle with anyway. But then when you put somebody in power that has the ability to manipulate, it's like, what do they say? Absolute power corrupts absolutely, or something
Absolutely.
like that.
That's it.
You know what I mean? So right. So I feel like from that perspective, people have to start looking at who you are deeming as a leader, and if they're using religion in a way that is to uplift people, teach people, encourage people, help people live better lives, help people understand how you're supposed to treat each other. And if they're not measuring up to that, because they're not supposed to be perfect, but they are supposed to teach you in a way where you see it from the most
Mhm.
sober way possible. And if they're not doing that, then you need to kind of maybe shift your focus to somewhere else, or just start learning more on your own. Start trying to do more praying, more meditating, more whatever you want to call it for whatever people believe, but more introspection about what you believe versus looking at it from what can some leader tell me about my faith or about a religion. um and I'm gonna stop right there, and I'm gonna pass it to Stephen because I know there's more in there with the other
Yep.
2 points, but I'm gonna stop there and pass it on.
Let's go, Steve.
So
Good
interesting that
job.
me
Good
and you
job.
both. So interesting that me and you both looked at it the opposite. Well, looked at it from the tail end first, and then worked our way
Yeah.
backwards. And I completely agree with a lot of what you said. I look at it from this standpoint. rulers as useful. So rulers tend to feel that they're outside of this thing. And whether they have resources, whether it be money, whether it be influence, whether it be power, they feel like they're outside of it. So many people that are in religion, are looked at it as, poor or anything like that, or lacking, or so
Mhm.
they need something. So they're reaching for something outside of them. And they may be white, right. They know that they need something outside of them. But with the rulers and the wealthy and the rich, and I don't want to just make it seem like it's about money, but those that are in power that have options, they feel like they're on the outside of it. So that they look at it as like they look at many things. I think that many of the elite look at everyone else as numbers. They look at everybody else like they look at the stock market. Everybody is a number, everybody is a statistic, and they're looking at how can I manipulate this to be and take advantage of it or gain from it. So they play that game. Now, when it comes to ethics and morals and things like that, they even sometimes feel like they're outside of that too. How many people in power have we seen, do things that they feel like they're
Yeah.
above the power or above the law? So they do what they want to do. They feel like they're on the outside of a lot of things that everybody else has to deal with. Then I'll jump back to the common people. That's true. Common people, not to say it like that, the masses. Many people look at the masses as sheep. They don't think for themselves. So if you have the rulers on the outside and then you have everybody else on the inside, and a lot of people on the inside think that they need something outside of them, they kind of look to where those resources and things that they need come from. So that's why a lot of people look at the government. You know, a lot of people are looking at handouts. They're looking for something else outside of them
And
and
don't
not
even get
me.
me started talking about that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You already said you had me more than. I'm pretty sure we'll be getting into that later on. But but yeah, they're looking for a handout. They're looking for something, and so if the people on the outside think that they can provide that, they can then get manipulative with it. They can, they feed them this, they feed them that. They'll start to look their way and look this direction. So it kind of is misleading. Now um, the wise, I think the wise, they almost know too much. If you go back to, the story, of course, of Adam and Eve with the apple, we now know things that we were not ready to know yet. And so with
Mhm.
the wise, I feel like they may have gone too far in their quest for knowledge and searching. And what they may not have along with that is revelation. Without that revelation, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't know what to do with it and how it's supposed to be used, you know, you kind of it puffs you up. So you kind of think you know better than, you think you know more than, and to the point where it puts you in a place where you can kind of dismiss certain things. So that's my view on those three things. But you did mention something at the very beginning. You were talking about the world and where the world is, and I've been saying this to many people that I've talked to for years now. There's an identity crisis going on in the world. No
Yeah.
one knows who they are. So because they don't know who they are, they don't know their purpose. And because they don't know their purpose, they don't know what they want. So they'll try
Mhm.
this and they'll try that and then they'll gain that and then they realize, oh, that's not what I wanted anyway. And then it's all of these hopes and reach and they're grasping for this and grasping for that, grasping for identity, grasping for wealth, grasping for knowledge. And it's like it's not rooted in anything. There is no faith, there is no religion, there's no foundation. So everything is off of their desires opposed to who are you?
Yeah.
I think one of the greatest things that me and one of my best
Yeah.
friends, he has a homeschool, he has a daycare, and with that homeschool, one of the biggest things he always says is, yeah, knowledge is needed, information is needed. Yes, you need to learn how to do math and arithmetic and reading and writing. Yes, but history, we talk about the history of this world, and it's just like the best history you can know is the history of you, the history of your family. What did my mother go through? What did my father deal with? What demons did they deal with? Once I know that, and I know what my issues and all of those things flow, now those other things can make sense. But those other things have no use to me if I'm struggling. If I got anxiety, if I deal with demons, and I deal with pornography, I deal with all of these things. If I don't know who I am and what my family and the ancestors behind me dealt with, none of that other stuff will even matter. I'll gain all the wealth. I'll gain all the knowledge. That's how you see wealthy people jumping out of, they killing themselves. They committing suicide. They doing all of these things because at the end of the day, they have no basis for who they are. That is
Yeah.
such a foundation
Hey
that
man,
is needed.
you're a pretty dope dude, man. I
Yeah.
guess the stuff I heard about
Absolutely.
you wasn't really lies then. Okay, I like I like that. Now, religion is regarded by the common people as true, by the wise as false, and by rulers as useful. For me, the way I heard people talking about it, religion is the subject of every one of these sentences. Like, like they're taking a shot at religion. And what I found is the commonality in both of your responses are the humans practicing the religion. And I think what tends to happen, the reason why men don't think that they need religion anymore is because they look at how religion is utilized instead of what religion is. How can I explain this? If I
Agreed.
give you, it's not guns that kill people, it's people. It's not
Yep.
drugs that kill people, it's the person overdosing on a drug. It's not the person, it's not the money that's evil, it's what it's the person holding the money. And I can go on and on and on and on. It's not the phone with social media that kills people, it's the person addicted to the social media. Y'all get what I'm saying, right? And what tends to happen
Yep.
is we're moving further and further from religion as men because we demonize religion instead of knowing that people just misappropriate it. All of this stuff is about how people misappropriate what is actually true. And I found that to be the hardest thing for people to understand is that when they could and when they connect religion to God, everybody has a problem with God. But when people just look at God for who he is, people tend not to have any issues with God. I found that to be because now what happens is the religion that people are rejecting or the faith that people are rejecting, these are disciplines. These are cornerstones of the household. These are cornerstones of manhood. These are the cornerstones of the community. And what we do is we demonize the disciplines of it. So if Mikhail, as a pastor, misappropriates religion, it now gives the guy in the back row he uses it to justify why he no longer wants to practice it, right? Because the
Right.
fidelity of religion is in the hands of God. The infidelity of religion is in the hands of a man. And I think the biggest mistake we make as men is that we expect, and even though we don't say this, to a certain extent, we expect humans to be divine because we preach a divine God, but yet we are human beings. And I found that this is the reason why we're starting to get away from religion. We're starting to be contrary to it. Because if I told people I'm a person of faith, they don't have an issue with me being a person of faith. They have an issue with me being religious. Am I right? Like the
Hmm.
average person does.
Agreed.
But what I encourage us as men is where else do we get? Where else actually? And I mean this as a honest question because I see it everywhere. Our music is degrading. It's terrible, right? I think we're more victims of bad culture than anything else as black people. I think we're more victims of bad culture than racism, in my opinion. Now, okay, we're victims of bad culture. Where do men get their moral compass from? What institutions in society, besides the mosque? I'm not a Muslim, but them people be about some discipline. They're about taking care of their women. They're about taking care of their children. How they do that is how they do that. Besides the mosque, and I'm going to kind of come from a black perspective, and the church, where else do we get our morals from? That is my question. Because we squat on faith. And I'm not just talking about the church. We squat on God. We squat on religion. We squat on stuff like this. Where in the world is a man supposed to get his moral compass from? Because 70 to 75% of the households don't even have a father in it anymore. Where else would we get these morals and these standards and these virtues from? Help me out and help other people out who might watch.